We delivered a quarter two beat, and we raised our full year guidance. A special shout out to our teams around the world for what I call delivering the power of the and, which is not only growing our direct-to-consumer business, but our wholesale business, growing our US business and our international business, growing men's and women's, and I can keep going on. And that really explains the momentum we have. We delivered our third consecutive quarter of high single-digit growth and growing our profitability. And that is why we believe that we are stepping into the second half. We believe we can manage through the uncertainty of tariffs. The tariff situation is fluid. We assumed an incremental 10% on tariffs from the rest of the world and 30% from China. Our view is we are competitively in a better spot to manage through this. 60% of our business is international. We have a fairly diversified supply chain, and we've been agile over the years in managing through some of the uncertainties. We've got some mitigation actions, Tim. We are working with our vendors. A large piece of our growth is driven by higher volumes, and that makes a difference when you're negotiating with our tenured relationships over the years. We are driving higher full price sales because our product offers are working, and we are targeting some pricing actions with minimal impact to the consumer. To your question about 26, we are working through that. Some of the mitigation actions will continue. We believe the brand momentum continues. The brand has never been stronger. This year, it's all about center of culture, driven through music. We've got a partnership with Beyonce. We've got a partnership with different musicians around the world. Think Diljit Dosanjh in India. Think different influencers in Europe, etc. Next year is about
maybe I can jump in there quickly. We'll ask about the music partnerships in a second. Just wondering, in terms of earnings, of course, an interesting thing is happening right now. We were expecting tariff clarity by July 9th. Now we're hearing from the White House it's going to be August 1st, and that won't be moved. But of course, you are on the lucky side that you have already reported earnings. Still, at the same time, you gave an outlook. You provided commentary about what you're thinking about the future. And you're doing that in an environment where we're hearing tariff announcements from the White House basically on a quasi-daily cadence. How confident and comfortable can you be as CFO to provide forward guidance at this point, given that the tariffs are still such a moving target?
Yeah, a couple of things give us confidence, Nina. Number one, the momentum that we're entering the second half. It's been sustained over the last 3 quarters. The second is our product offers. The consumer so far has been resilient. Our customers, our wholesale retailers, are still buying our product, especially our new product. And because we are a global company, international, for example, has been fairly strong. So as we manage through the uncertainty, we are trying to do it thoughtfully. We don't take anything for granted. Our view is you've got to continue to earn the trust with our consumers every day. And, especially in moments of crisis, consumers tend to gravitate to brands that are relevant and also, brands they trust. And, because we have been around for 170 years, navigated different crises, that's really been the genesis of why we think we can manage through it. We talked about the impact. We talked about actions that we're taking to mitigate that. And more importantly, we are doing different scenarios. Yesterday, after earnings, when we received news about certain tariffs, we went back and game planned that through another scenario. So we're working through different scenarios. The other piece that gives me more confidence is the agility of our supply chain and our teams around the world. And, let me pause here. I hope that addresses your question.
Yeah, Harmit, you mentioned a music partnership that we, of course, all know, Beyonce, and this was a really major deal for Levi Strauss. You mentioned the brand being relevant. I was just at the Cowboy Carter concert on Friday, and I look around, there's Levi's everywhere. How influential was this partnership to the company, and how much of an impact did it have on sales?
Yeah, it's been really important. We have had a relationship with Beyonce for decades. She's an icon. She's in the center of culture. And we are just privileged and honored that she chose us for this partnership. It's had an impact. Our women's business is on a roll. We have doubled the business over the last many years. The partnership really accelerated there. We are nowhere near done. We think we can double our women's business. Our women's business is about a little less than 40% of our business. When I joined the company 12 years ago, it was about 20%. We think that our women's business can be about half our business. And I would say the partnership is important. Her styles and what she's wearing, you see the products right now on the screen. They're selling really well. Take the Beyonce hat. I was in Europe, early June, and I was hearing stories of consumers wanting to wear and shop the hat and the product before they went to the Beyonce concert. They come to our store. We have store managers who help customize the product. Emily, who runs our store in Regent Street, is a great example. And so, from my perspective, building and coming up with these memorable moments for our consumers is what connects us with our fans and makes a big difference.
We should note Harmit Singh, who we're speaking to now, is Chief Financial and Growth Officer at Levi Strauss. If you're listening on radio, he's dressed head to toe in Levi, but he's not actually wearing the Beyonce hat right now. So next time he joins us, he can shoot for that, Nina.
I'm sure he'd look great in it.
Yeah.
Harmit, you talked about the importance of your supply chain. I'm curious to see what you're hearing from suppliers. We've seen about a 10% decrease in the dollar against major currencies around the world since the beginning of the year. Are you seeing any demands from suppliers to be paid in local currencies to not carry some of that currency volatility that has come with the dollar?
Yeah, no, we have tenured relationships. We source from about 28 countries. Relationships are deep, have been there for a long, long time. Currencies go up and down. There are times when the dollar is weaker, there are times when the dollar is stronger. So, and I think our suppliers, our vendors and our partners are used to that. So we're not seeing any pressure to change it into local currency because people have lived through, pieces. The more important thing is what goes into the production and manufacture. Cotton is a big piece, and cotton as a commodity has actually traded down, and that also helps offset some of the currency pressures. And because volumes have been a big piece of what's driving our growth, and we're thinking long, and and we believe we can sustain the growth at mid-single digit over a period of time. I think that's what helps us ensure that it's a win-win both for our manufacturers and vendors as well as the brand. And so I think that's how we're dealing with it, Nina.
So while Levi is focusing on direct-to-consumer, the wholesale channel is also growing, right? What kind of retail is specifically doing well for the company? Department stores or more so e-commerce?
Yeah, so it's the magic of the end. It's great to see our stores perform well, our e-commerce perform well, and wholesale. And, I mentioned jokingly within the company, it's a great trifecta on DTC. We're growing comp sales. We just reported our 13th consecutive quarter of comp sales growth. We're opening doors, so we're increasing our market reach. We have 3,200 doors right now. We're adding 50, 60 a year, and we're growing e-commerce in the mid-single digit. Beside all this, wholesale is also growing. And where DTC first really helps, Nora, to your question, our wholesale customers see the new product, which is introduced in our direct-to-consumer stores, see how the performance is doing, and in a lot of cases is working. And that gives them the confidence to buy into the product. So wholesale customers are growing largely because DTC is growing. They're seeing the product introduction. They see things working, and that makes a big difference. And also with our wholesale retailers, our relationships have been here for a long, long time.
Harmit, we only have 30 seconds left, but given the tariff uncertainty, Are you having serious discussions about moving any production or more production or any production, excuse me, to the United States?
No, Tim. 98% of all apparel sold in the U.S. Is actually imported. So, that's not a conversation that's happening. We believe long-term the tariff uncertainty will clarify and settle well, where the consumer in the U.S. Doesn't bear the cost of the incremental tariffs. And companies like ours, different apparel companies, continue to grow their businesses in the U.S.